What's going on, you degenerates, dorks, and dweebs, and other D words? You obviously clicked on this video because you want some new unique decks to build, new ways to play Commander, stuff like that. And you thought you'd come to old Daddy Nick to see what he had to offer. I could, like, see the view count dropping when I said that shit. Yeah. I just have 4 fun deck ideas. They will progressively get more wild and kooky as we go. Starting off with something sweet and simple. Alright, with the introduction of Outlaws of Thunder Junction and all the cool new mechanics like Saddle, Plot. They also came out with a new token type called Mercenary. And wouldn't you know it, these little tokens can tap to give a creature +1/+0 until end of turn. Huh. Now you might say, why do I give a shit that they do that? Well, because Agrus Kos Eternal Soldier seems real good with that. Agrus Kos is 3 and a white for a 3/4 vigilance. Whenever Agrus Kos Eternal Soldier becomes the target of an ability that targets only it, you may pay 1 and a Boros. If you do, copy that ability for each other creature you control that ability could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures. One, this dude's just unique on his own, because like 9 times out of 10, this would say whenever it's the target of a spell. This one says ability, which makes it really fun and cool. So there's obviously some very powerful stuff you can do with this commander just as is. You can run stuff like Duelist Heritage to give it double strike, pay 1 and a Boros, give your whole board double strike, which seems, really good. Run stuff like Mother of Runes, give it protection from a color, pay 1 and a Boros, give your whole board protection from that color. You see where I'm going. But you plug in those brand new mercenary cards into the equation here, and honestly, we're going for more of a token strategy because 1, the mercenary tokens are tokens, so they're already going to be flooding the board. And 2, the mercenary tokens can buff Agrus Kos, which can then buff other mercenaries, other tokens we have in play. I just feel like you can get kind of like elf ball-y almost, where everything's kind of pumping each other and you're just swinging face, which I like a lot. In terms of cards that make these mercenary tokens, there's 9 playable ones in this deck that are in the colors, and all of them are pretty good. They're honestly all definitely runnable in a mid to high tier, or a mid to high power deck. We'll talk about a few of the highlight ones. Angelic Sellsword is fantastic, 4 and a white for a 4/4 Angel Mercenary, flying vigilance. When it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 1/1 red mercenary token with tap, give target creature +1/+0. Whenever it attacks, if its power is 6 or greater, draw a card. Yeah, this thing's making us mercenaries every time we play a creature. Very good in this deck. And it's drawing us a card if it's 6 or greater, which in this deck, it probably will be 6 or greater. Very good card, honestly. Angelic Sellsword, just on its own, I think is a great card. In this deck, super good. Eartha Joe, Frontier Mentor, is just made for this dude, honestly. She's a 2/4. When she enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 red mercenary. Whenever you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. In this deck, you're tapping mercenaries to give something +1/+0. You're activating your commander to give the whole board +1/+0. Eartha Joe's copying it. You can pay another 1 in a Boros to give your whole board another +1/+0. You're going big, honestly. You're swinging in for a lot here. We Ride at Dawn's actually kind of perfect for this. 2 and a white for an enchantment. Legendary creatures you control have Convoke, so our commander will come out way cheaper with all these tokens in play. And whenever your commander attacks, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap, give a creature +1/+0. So yeah, our commander's just producing those now. And that's when it attacks. So we can still, in response to it entering, activate the ability, double it with our commander. We're still attacking. Honestly, pretty good. And as you can see on screen, and if you want to check out the link below and like kind of read along with me while I'm talking about these decks, there's 6 more of these cards that produce mercenaries. Yeah, there's a good chunk of cards that can produce these mercenaries. When you pair them with Agrus Kos, it's very, very good. We run anthems like Intangible Virtue, War Leader's Call, obviously, because we're going to be running all these tokens. We might as well be doing that. In terms of vendors, we've got the classic Impact Tremors, because we're going to have so many tokens coming into play. And Nayali, which I actually didn't see this card. I don't think I've ever even saw that this released. It's very, very good. 2 a red and a white for a 3/3. Attacking tokens have double strike. In this deck, very good. Whenever 1 or more tokens you control attacks a player, exile the top card of your library. During any turn you attacked with a token, you may play that card. And that's for each thing attacking. Like, that's for each token attacking a player. That's a lot of card draw in this. That can easily win a game. Plus the double strike. That's going to win a game. Outside of that, we've got the classic token creators like Siege Gang Commander. We've got Anim Pakal because, 1, I just love this card. I think it's really, really cool. And she pumps out a ton of tokens. She gets 1/1 counters for each non-gnome creature you're attacking with. Then she spits out gnomes for each counter she has when she attacks. Then you can activate your commander to pump up all those gnomes later on, or your mercenaries to double the pump up. It's pretty good, honestly. The deck reads like it plays pretty well. Again, if you want to get into more of the nitty-gritty specifics of these decks, the links are in the comments, description, all that stuff. Check it out. Yeah, but with that, we tie a little bow on Agrus Kos Mercenaries. So yeah, Agrus Kos Mercenaries. Thought it was pretty cool. Moving on. This one just seems gross. Endrek Sahr, Master Breeder. We've all seen this guy. We've all made fun of his name. It's a rite of passage in this game. 4 and a black for a 2/2. Whenever you cast a creature spell, create X 1/1 black Thrall creature tokens, where X is the spell's mana value. When you control 7 or more Thralls, sacrifice Endrek Sahr, Master Breeder. Your creatures turn into Thralls. If you have more than 7 Thralls, you have to sack this guy. So 1, we are going to be walking the line on that. A lot of our creatures that are on the high end cost 6. We don't really run. We run 1 7-drop creature, and it's Butcher of Malakar, because Butcher of Malakar in this deck, you know, it's kind of too good to not run in this deck. Everything else, every other creature is 6 or less, because we don't want it to be sacking Endrek, because we want to be sacking all those Thralls, using all those Thralls for some kind of fuel. Now, you might ask, how is this different from a normal Endrek deck? That sounds exactly like Endrek and what he does. This is an artifact deck. Yeah, I thought that was disgusting. 1, we get access to Marionette Master. Gross, because we're going to have so many artifacts just like flooding into play. Why are we going to have so many artifacts flooding into play? Well, Endrek's going to be making us a ton of Thralls. We can run cards like Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, to be cracking all these Thralls, so then we can flood the board with more artifacts. Those artifact creatures are going to make us more Thralls that we can then sack to play more artifacts. And then you pair this with the aforementioned Butcher of Malakar, Grave Pact. Whatever your flavor of Death Trigger is, it seems like it kind of cranks a normal Endrek deck to like 12 by just turning it into an artifact deck. You get access to stuff like Biotransference, which just turns your whole deck into artifacts. Whenever you cast an artifact, you lose 1, but you get a 2/2. Pair that with Endrek. That's a lot of tokens flooding the board. That, like, a lot. Not to even mention stuff like Mirkwood Bats or Nadir Nightblade. Yeah, Nadir Nightblade. Just draining people for you making and or destroying or sacking tokens. Very easily can win a game when you're spamming this many artifacts into play, making this many Thralls, sacking this many Thralls, playing more artifacts. It's really, really good. There's also a couple really good Necrons that came out with the Warhammer set that fit perfect into this deck. We got Anakir the Traveler, which is 4 and a black for a 4/4. Whenever it attacks, you may cast an artifact spell from your hand or graveyard by paying life equal to its mana cost. So again, you'll still get your Endrek trigger, but you'll get to cast something for free, which then you can sack. You'll have all your mana open now because you paid health instead of mana. Play another artifact, sack those Thralls. Again, insanely potent. The other one's Trazeen the Infinite, which is 4 and 2 black. Again, we're walking that line of 6/7 drop. For a 4/6 Death Touch, as long as it's on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all artifact cards in your graveyard. Yeah, just a big boy that'll give you 6 Thralls. It won't sack Endrek, because it won't give you the 7th Thrall. And then it just gets a bunch of activated abilities of like powerful artifacts you have in your graveyard. Speaking of which, we just run like pretty strong artifacts that are just walking the line of a 6-drop. We got Duplicate, which is good removal. It copies something. It's a 6-drop. We love that. Wormcoil Engine, just a super big threat. 6/6 for 6, Death Touch, Lifelink, splits off into a 3/3 Lifelink, 3/3 Death Touch when it dies. Insane. Also 6-drop, Steel Hellkite, same exact thing. Big, scary thing that's a 6-drop. Very good with the commander. Gives us Thralls. And then these things can just become threats of their own that we can win the game with, along with the amount of tokens we're producing, along with the sack outlets, along with the amount of mana we're getting. The deck just reads like it'll just be very like prolific. For number 3, we got Lurrus the Dream Den, not as a companion, but as a straight up commander. If you don't know what Lurrus does, he's 1 and 2 hybrid Azorius for a 3/2 lifelink. During each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard. Now, what this dude normally does is you run Blood Artist, Viscera Seers, bunch of 1 and 2 drops that have death triggers, bunch of recursion, and you just go through this cycle of playing small creatures, sacking them, putting them back into play, draining opponents. It's a very potent deck. I did not do that. Shocker. I know. I don't think it would have been on this video if I did that, obviously. So, let's go Voltron. Because, you know, we don't have to necessarily follow its 2 or less rule on when it's a commander, you know? I think a lot of people like think like, well, we need to make everything. It's like, you don't need to make everything, but a lot of it can be. And guess what a lot of guess what a lot of auras and equipments that are really good are? 2 drops or less. And being able to just always have those in your graveyard to just be equipping and enchanting Lurrus with is very, very good. So, just to highlight a couple for you. We got All That Glitters, 1 and a white for an enchantment. Enchant creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact or enchantment you control. That'll make Lurrus huge. Blackblade Reforged is a 2-drop that gives the equipped creature 1/1 for each land you control. Again, just extremely good for 2 mana for the amount of buff that you get for that. And you can just keep playing these from the graveyard with Lurrus if someone deals with them. The Umbras are very good. We've got Elend. We got Elend Umbra, Felidar Umbra, Hyena Umbra. I think that's the only ones. Yes, because they all cost 2 or less, and if the creature would be destroyed, you would instead destroy the Umbra. Really good way to protect Lurrus, and really good way to buff Lurrus. It's just, they're like a no-brainer in this deck. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is cool in theory, but someone just smokes your commander, and it's like just like every other Voltron deck, and it kind of falls through the cracks, and it won't be able to do much. You are right, technically, if I wasn't so goddamn smart. So, we run a Feign Death package. There's actually 11 of these effects now, as you can see, or if you're looking at the list or on screen, either way. And what a Feign Death trigger is it's a 1 black or it's 1 and a black, normally. And it's an instant. It gives the creature, if this creature would die, return it into play. So, we run 11 of those. So, if anybody does anything to Lurrus, as long as it's not exiling, we can just Feign Death it and bring him back into play, which is extremely powerful. Also, Lurrus is a 3-drop. Someone can kill him a couple times, we'll still be able to play him. Also, a lot of the buffs and stuff we have are protection, so that helps a lot with removal. But you might have a follow-up question to that. You might go, okay, Nick, if you're so smart, you just swung at us with your huge Lurrus. Now you're wide open, and we're going to beat your face because you have a huge, scary Lurrus. Man, you might have got me. You might have got me again. If I wasn't so goddamn smart. We also run a Pillow Fort package. We've got Crawl Space, Ghostly Prison, Light Minefield, Nils, Disciple Enforcer, Norn Xanix, and Sphere of Safety. So, you know, while we're bashing face and we leave our face wide open, we'll go ahead and just make it really hard for everyone to swing at us. Yeah, that's probably what we'll do. And like I said, we've got protection with like Swiftfoot Boots, Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes. So like, there's other ways to keep Lurrus in play. But yeah, this just seems like a cool way to build Voltron while being still very resilient with the Feign Death triggers, because that's the one weak spot in a Voltron deck, is that you kill the commander and it's like I don't have to worry about anything, but you have all these Feign Death triggers and you have a 3-drop commander. Those both make it easier to keep him in play. You have all this protection, which makes him easier to keep in play, and then you have all this Pillow Fort stuff, so it makes it easier to swing at people, which is really nice. I think the deck's cool. I think it's really interesting. I think this is a very cool approach to Voltron. I normally don't really have any interest in playing Voltron. This is a list where I'm like, I have most of these cards, and I kind of want to build it. So, who knows? That might be a deck in the future. But with Lurrus Voltron, we move on to the 4th and final deck of the video. And finally, to end off the video, we've got Xavier Sagas, Infested Captain. Xavier Sagas is a black, a green, and a blue for a 3/3. You can tap him, remove a counter from another permanent you control, populate, activate only as a sorcery, or you can tap him, sacrifice another creature, proliferate, activate only as a sorcery. So yeah, your counters turn into tokens, your tokens turn into counters. He's really cool. So the normal approach to Xavier is I'm going to infect you, and then I'm going to kill you with my proliferate. Or I'm going to play Planeswalkers, and those Planeswalkers are probably going to make tokens, a lot of them, and I'm going to use those tokens to proliferate Planeswalkers and kill you with their ultimates. Both very good, both very scary, but both not at all the direction I went. I went with Sagas because it's actually really good. Once you read some of these Sagas, you'll be like, oh wait, being able to just reuse that one over and over again on your turn. So just to like pick out a couple that just so you can like really see how annoying this can be. For example, Blink from the Doctor Who set is a saga for 2, a black, and a blue. Chapter 1, choose target creature. Its owner shuffles it into their library and then investigates. Chapter 1 does that. Chapter 3 does that. It's a little confusing. Chapter 2 creates a 2/2 black alien angel creature token, and Chapter 4 creates that same alien token. So with Xavier, we can tap him to remove a counter from a permanent to populate. Even if we don't have tokens to populate, we can still use this ability. So we play Blink. We shuffle the biggest threat in play into the opponent's library, and then we use Xavier to remove that counter. And then guess what happens next turn? We get to shuffle another threat into the library. And then we can choose to use Xavier again, remove the Blink thing, shuffle another thing into the library. But maybe we need that 2/2 black angel. Okay, we just don't use Xavier. We let the second counter get put on it, we get the angel, we use Xavier, we get the angel again. Or we just don't use Xavier. We go. You see what I'm saying? You can just manipulate where you're at on sagas, which makes them become like super, super strong. Let me look for another example. Here's another example that's crazy. Genesis of the Daleks. 4 and 2 black. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 create a 3/3 black Dalek artifact with menace for each lore counter on Genesis of the Daleks. Yeah, you get this thing to 3, then you use Xavier to remove it and take it back down to 2, and then you put it back to 3 on your next turn. You are swarming the board with Daleks. And then you can just let it go to 4 on whatever turn you feel like you have got a sufficient enough amount of robot killing machines on your side. And then target opponent faces a villainous choice. They either destroy all Daleks, or each of your opponents loses life equal to the total power of your Daleks. This will just win you a game with Xavier. You're just like, yeah, sorry. I'm going to absolutely destroy, fuck, come home, bring home the bacon, all the stuff a good man does. Like, goddamn, that shit's nuts. Still not enough. Still not enough for you. That's fine. That's fine. Let's look at Scroll of Isildur. Yeah. Chapter 1, gain control of target artifact as long as you control Scroll of Isildur. Oh, and the ring tempts you. I didn't even read that part of this one. You can just keep stealing artifacts as long as you have Xavier in play. You just keep removing Chapter 1, keep getting Chapter 1, and you just keep stealing artifacts over and over and over and over and over. Or you go to Chapter 2, and you tap 2 things and put stun counters on them on every one of your turns. How annoying is that shit? And that's not even to mention all the sagas where the first chapter actually does just make a token. The Huntsman's Redemption gives us a 3/3 beast that we can start populating with Xavier to remove the counter from the saga to get more 3/3 beasts. Jugan, Defender of the Temple, gives us a 1/1 mana ramper that we could just keep getting 1/1 mana rampers to play more sagas with. This deck's very good. Kiora, Best the Sea God. Yeah, you want to keep getting 8/8 Krakens with hexproof on every one of your turns. Death in Heaven, just keep exiling their graveyard, keep milling the opponent for 2, exiling their graveyard on every one of your turns, and then when you think it's sufficient enough creatures exiled, you just get 2/2 Cybermen for each of those. Jin Gataxius, who flips into the Great Synthesis, is an insane saga that you can manipulate. Same goes for Vornklex, flipping into the Grand Evolution, being like, oh my gosh, I can just keep milling 10 and getting 2 creatures on every one of my turns. Yes, you can. You really, really can. And if all of this insane value from being able to manipulate where you're at on a saga doesn't win you the game, which I truthfully think it will, this is nuts. We also run Sandworm Convergence, Shark Typhoon, and Zendikar's Royal to just be spitting out and flooding tons of tokens that we can be populating, which is another way to be bringing home the game with this. This one especially. This is why I saved this one for last in the video. I'm probably going to build this. This is just like very, and it's very affordable too. Sagas ain't worth shit. But yeah, I hope this inspired some deck builds. It definitely did for me. My wallet's screaming right now, but that's okay. We muffle it in our pocket, don't we, boy? I hope you've been liking the little bit more prolific content I've been trying to release a little bit more. I have tons of ideas. I have tons of time, I thought. Let me know if you liked any of these deck ideas. Please shout out any card suggestions for any of these decks. Check out the links down below to the Patreon, Discord, all the stuff like that. And of course, the decks if you want to go check those out. Anyway, guys, much love, and go play some Magic. Hopefully with one of these Dexters.
Perfect.
In response, run 100 up. You think I'm mulligan a pub, you ain't one of us. Where's it at? Where's it at? Ain't noticing it, I'm right here. Boom big, I'm noticing it. My pedal to the metal like gilded. My pedal float shit like I killed it. Real shit, let this little nerd get a word in real quick.